Book 2, The Argument. In this book, Antonius gives instructions respecting invention in oratory and the arrangements of the different parts of a speech, departments in which he was thought to have attained great excellence, though his language was not always highly studied or elegant. As humor in speaking was considered as a part of invention, Caius Julius Caesar, who was called the most facetious man of his time, speaks copiously on the subject. 1. There was, if you remember, Brother Quintus, a strong persuasion in us when we were boys that Lucius Crassus had acquired no more learning than he had been enabled to gain from instruction in his youth, and that Marcus Antonius was entirely destitute and ignorant of all erudition whatsoever. And there were many who, though they did not believe that such was really the case, yet that they might more easily deter us from the pursuit of learning, when we were inflamed with the desire of attaining it, looked a pleasure in reporting what I have said to these orators, so that if men of no learning had acquired the greatest wisdom and an incredible degree of eloquence, all our industry might seem vain, and the earnest perseverance of our father, one of the best and most sensible of men, in educating us, might appear to be folly. These reasoners we, as boys, used at that time to refute with the aid of witnesses whom we had at home, our father Caius Aluo, our relatives, and Lucius Cicero, our uncle for our father, Aculio, who married our mother's sister, and whom Crassus esteemed the most of all his friends, and our own uncle, who went with Antonius into Cilicia and quitted it at the same time with him, often told us many particulars about Crassus relative to his studies and learning. And as we, with our cousins Aculio's sons, learned what Crassus approved and were instructed by the masters whom he engaged, we had also frequent opportunities of observing, since, though boys, we could understand this, that he spoke Greek as well, so well that he might have been thought not to know any other language, and he put such questions to our masters and discoursed upon such subjects in his conversation with them that nothing appeared to be new or strange to him. But with regard to Antonius, although we had frequently heard from our uncle, a person of the greatest learning, how he had devoted himself both at Athens and at Rhodes to the conversation of the most learned men, yet I myself also, when quite a youth, often asked him many questions on the subject, as far as the bashfulness of my early years would permit. What I am writing will certainly not be new to you, for at the very time you heard it from me, namely that from many and various conversations he appeared to me neither ignorant nor unaccomplished in anything in those branches of knowledge of which I could form any opinion. But there was such peculiarity in each that Crassus desired not so much to be thought unlearned as to hold learning in contempt, and to prefer on every subject the understanding of our countrymen to that of the Greeks. While Antonius thought that this oratory would be better received by the Roman people if he were believed to have had no learning at all, and thus the one imagined that he should have more authority if he appeared to despise the Greeks, and the other if he seemed to know nothing of them. But what their object was is certainly nothing to our present purpose. It is pertinent, however, to the treatise which I have commenced, and to this portion of it, to remark that no man could ever excel and reach eminence in eloquence without learning not only the art of oratory, but every branch of useful knowledge too. For almost all other arts can support themselves independently and by their own resources, but to speak well, that is, to speak with learning and skill and eloquence, has no definite province within the limits of which it is enclosed and restricted. Everything that can possibly fall under discussion among mankind must be effectively treated by him who professes that he can practice this art, or he must relinquish all title in eloquence. For my own part, therefore, though I confess that both in our country and in Greece itself, which always held this art in the highest estimation, there have arisen many men of extraordinary powers and of the highest excellence in speaking. Without this absolute knowledge of everything, yet I affirm that such a degree of eloquence as was in Crassus and Antonius could not exist without a knowledge of all subjects that contribute to form that wisdom and that force of oratory which were seen in them. On this account, I had the greater satisfaction in committing to writing the dialogue which they formerly held on these subjects, both that the notion which had always prevailed, that the one had no great learning, and that the other was wholly unlearned, might be eradicated, and that I might preserve in the records of literature the opinions which I thought divinely delivered by those consummate orators concerning eloquence, if I could by any means learn and fully register them, and also, indeed, that I might, as far as I should be able, rescue their fame, now upon the decline, from silence and oblivion. If they could have been known from writings of their own, I should perhaps have thought it less necessary for me to be thus elaborate. But as one left but little in writing, at least there is little extent, and that he wrote in his youth, the other almost nothing, I thought it due from me to men of such genius, while we still retain a lively remembrance of them, to render their fame, if I could, imperishable. I enter upon this undertaking with the greater hopes of effecting my object, because I am not writing of the eloquence of Servius Galba or Cassius Carbo, concerning which I should be at liberty to invent whatever I pleased, as no one now living could confute me. But I publish on account to be read by those who have frequently heard the men themselves of whom I am speaking, that I may commend those two illustrious men to such as have never seen either of them, from the recollection as a testimony of those to whom both those orators were known, and who are now alive and present among us.